At Disney's recent D23 event, we saw the release of their live-action Snow White trailer, and I'm concerned that this could be a film that's dead on arrival. Now, appropriately, let's start with the titular character, Snow White, who here is played by Rachel Zegler. We've seen Zegler in recent films like Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and also in the West Side Story remake. And in the latter, she did show herself to have a pretty decent singing voice, and so on singing ability alone, you can understand why she was considered for the role. But what we've also seen from Rachel Zegler is quite a few controversial comments made to the media, especially surrounding this film. Like, for example, when the strike was happening, she said how she deserves to get paid for every hour that this film is streamed online because she had to stand for 18 hours in this dress of the iconic princess. That particular interview did not go down well at all because you got people listening to this who work 18 hours a day themselves, not earning anywhere near as much money as her, even some doing hard labor, and she's moaning about standing around in this dress when she's earning so much more money. It's like, okay, I don't think you can really complain about that. And it's not really speaking to the people who are eventually going to part with their money to watch your film. Also, there was another interview where she was there with Gal Gadot, and they explained how this Snow White is going to be a more progressive one where she's not going to be saved by the prince.
That is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Now look, I think you can have stories that will probably eventually be in this film, but I don't think Snow White is where you do it because it's remaking a classic which is involving true love and the prince saving the princess, and it's all the very classic fairy tale stuff which people still enjoy to this day. Now, I think the issue maybe in the past was that every story was, the prince saving the princess or whatever, but that's not the case anymore, especially. So why do you have to change it for this? This doesn't have to be where you do that. You can do that in something new. But of course, if you do it in something new, there's no guarantee that's going to succeed because that's a whole new name. There's a whole new risk with making a film like that. So instead, let's hijack a story that is known worldwide in Snow White and do it there. And with that decision, that has not caused a lot of people to be very happy. So we have the haters from the other comments before about her personal stuff, but now we also have people not liking her because of the direction this film is taking in terms of it being a modern take on Snow White. And then there's the big question, why was she cast in the first place? Snow White is described as having skin as white as snow, and she clearly does not have that. That's the reason why she's called Snow White. So it's a bit more of an issue than it was maybe for The Little Mermaid, when they also race swapped that character with Halle Bailey, who I thought had a good singing voice. Again, Rachel Zegler's got a good singing voice, but that's not enough for me personally to be the reason why you get picked for this role. With Snow White, this is a pretty set in stone detail of what they're supposed to look like, and so this feels more like a Disney decision to be more diverse. But if you want to be more diverse, you can be more diverse by making a live-action remake of a film that has a diverse character. Like, I don't know, Princess and the Frog. But Princess and the Frog didn't do so well and isn't as big as Snow White. And so if they were to remake Princess and the Frog, that film ain't going to do that well when it comes to the money. And so really this all comes down to a money decision. They want to fall back on the name of Snow White to give them a better chance for this film to succeed and for their decision to be shown to be a good one. But when looking at all the factors surrounding this remake of Snow White, I'm not sure they're going to make as much money as they hope to. And so that brings us on to the other big character in the film, the evil queen, who here is played by Gal Gadot. First things first, I think she is severely miscast for this character. I think there are so many other better actresses out there who could play this role. I'll bang the drum for Ruth Wilson all day long because after seeing her in things like Luther and His Dark Materials, she just seemed to me like she would love this sort of role. But for Gal Gadot, I don't know. I never had that inkling seeing her in other things where she could easily, twist and turn into an evil character like this. It just feels like from this trailer alone, I know we only saw a little bit, but it just feels like she's a bit of a weak version of the evil queen. Also worth mentioning is that Gal Gadot is quite a beautiful woman. I mean, she won Miss Israel in the past, and she's playing a character who's envious of Snow White and her being the fairest of them all. So it makes you think, what were you thinking here? But maybe they should just rename this character to something else, because the evil queen in this version has her own song, which is titled All Is Fair, which will be sang by Gal Gadot. And this just feels like another indication that it will be a much more mellow Snow White. And that really sucks, because Snow White, I remember watching it as a kid, and I was bloody terrified of that hag. That hag in that window, I was like, I don't want her anywhere near me. I don't like her. I don't like her at all. When she's going down the stairs and transforming and all that, I'm like, no, no, don't like it. So it's quite a creepy film, especially for young kids. But this, it looks like they're just going to be a bit more tame, and everything's so tame these days. I hate that. I feel like some of my best memories were being a bit traumatized as a kid, seeing things like, Bigfoot, not Bigfoot, Littlefoot's mother die, and it's just like things like that. They stick with you, but because they're sad, but they also just they teach you that things will be like that in life. There will be times when you will feel sad. Not everything has to be jolly all the bloody time. Speaking of the hag, we do see her face very briefly here in the trailer. That very well could still be Gal Gadot there with just loads of her stuff on her face to make her look as hag-like as possible. The teeth, I think, look the best in this image. But I'll have to see her properly before I can really give a fair judgment on the hag. Because we also see her give the apple away at the end of the trailer as well, but that's nothing too much. The only thing I'll say about that is that if we go to the end of the trailer, hold on. So here we go, we see her giving the apple to Snow White outside, which is different from the classic, because in the animated classic, we see her give her the apple in the cottage. Finally, we have to talk about the Seven Dwarfs. And I think in this shot here, they do look the best they do in any part of the trailer, because we're just seeing their silhouettes instead of seeing them up close, where they look pretty terrifying. Disney decided to go against using real actors for the dwarves, and instead we have these CGI ones, which I think that is the key decision. CGI dwarves are going to look a bit odd. I mean, Dopey, I would not trust him down a dark alleyway. He just looks so strange to me. But you can clearly see, on the right we have Grumpy. Above me, I think we have Doc. So you can see who's who. But I don't know. I think, when we watch the film, we'll probably be like a bit blown away when we first see him. Like, whoa, what is going on here? And then we might get used to them as the film goes on. But I still believe that, I get what like Peter Dinklage is saying, that small people shouldn't just be linked to small roles. They should be able to go for any role, and I get that. That's fair enough. But at the same time, like, it shouldn't mean you have to take away these roles, because these are sort of roles which are good introductory ones, which could then introduce people to this actor, which could then push them on to something else. Like, it's still a door that you've now closed to people, when I think you can still have that door open, but still open more doors. I think that's the thing. You don't have to close a door to open other ones. You can still keep that door open, but just open more doors. Now, I do have a good friend who has been working on this film, as well as Mufasa, and I bet he's had a better time working on that film than this one. But something he did tell me, which I hopefully won't get him in any trouble, but sort of an exclusive here, is that the dwarves are referred to as miners. Miners, I should stress, with an E. Miners with an E. So that's possibly why we're not seeing the Seven Dwarfs in the title for this film. It is just Disney's Snow White, not Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, because they are the 7 miners in this version. If that does turn out to be what they are referred to in the film, I think that's just going to be so stupid. What's wrong with 7 Dwarfs? Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. I still think that should be the title anyway. Like, not just Disney's Snow White, but that possibly could be the reason. So we'll find out maybe later on whether that happens to be what they go for. Also, this seems to be the prince in the film, but from what we sort of had to learn from Rachel Zegler, the prince doesn't really matter so much in this version. So I don't know, is there any point really him being there? Probably not. So with all that surrounding the characters and the controversies, this film has quite a lot to carry. Added to the fact that this is yet another Disney live-action remake, and people are getting bloody sick of these, so it's like, what is in its favour? What here is an inspiring choice that you think, okay, this could be a good sort of take on Snow White, but it still respects the original, but has a slightly new twist on it. It doesn't seem like there's anything there so far from this teaser trailer. Of course, we'll still get another trailer yet before the film comes out, so there might be more in that to be shown off. With this film and other ones, they do open up that more broader discussion, and I think the main thing is just to be mature about it, not just label someone as something if they disagree with a decision. Just understand what that reason is, why they disagree with it, and try and understand the point of views from either side. I think that is the main thing people should try and do here. So yeah, with that, let me know your thoughts. How do you think this Snow White remake will do when it gets released next March? And if you'd like to watch another video, you can keep it Disney by watching my Peter Pan 1953 retrospective, or you can watch one of my other recent reviews.